Hi there. My name is Dave Meikle, and I am a multiple TBI survivor. I had three car crashes between 2016, 2017, and 2018. And in the period of just over a 2-year span, I went from being a regular guy that loved his job, loved his family, to after the second crash, that was first one was a severe concussion. I had um, slurred speech, stuttering, and lots of sleep. And the second crash happened a year later, and because I wasn't back to baseline, according to the neurologist, that suddenly was a traumatic brain injury. Within weeks, I didn't know how to do my job anymore. I've been in software. I've been writing software since I was like 12 years old. I'd been in the software industry for almost 20 years at that point, and couldn't do it. I'd look at code and I had no idea what was going on. That was within a couple of weeks. Most concussions last 6 to 8 weeks. They say you go down, and then by 8 weeks you should be normal. 6 months later, I was still getting worse every day. Couldn't get anyone to listen to what was going on. Everyone just kept going, "Oh, harden up, stop being a pussy about it. You didn't even bump your head, so nothing could be wrong." And yeah, so 6 months after my second crash, I was 48 years old, and I was the 95-year-old guy with dementia staring at the wall, unable to have conversations with people. This is completely unscripted, clearly. So I went to a spirit plant medicine conference at the University of British Columbia in November of 2017. And I spoke to somebody there and talked to them about my brain injury. And they said, you should microdose mushrooms. And they explained how microdosing mushroom, the psilocybin, creates neurogenesis, which is the formation of new neural pathways in the brain, which is what you lose when you have a concussion. And I sat on that for like 4 months. I was like, oh, I'm not really the kind of person that wants to do that sort of thing. But 4 months later, I was sick of being sick, and I was useless. I couldn't look after myself. I couldn't do math. I couldn't, some of the tests that the occupational therapist had me do, I couldn't even log into a website to pay an electrical bill. I couldn't figure it out. So yeah, I started microdosing. And at the time I was, you have depression. And what happens is, it's not, I'm sad. Depression is, as it was explained to me, as I know, your system goes, you're depressed. The whole system shuts down. So, my whole life, I was like, well, after the crashes, my life became no longer like, oh, I want to go outside and ride my bike and teach Kung Fu or something. It was, I just want to go in a cave and slowly die and not have to deal with life anymore. And I started microdosing. And after 2 weeks of microdosing, I was at, so when you have that serious of a brain injury like mine was, people actually often kill themselves. It's too challenging to cope with. Me, I look back and I'm like, I was too concussed and too caught up in the symptoms to even have that cross my mind, like, oh shit, there's a way out. So I microdose for 2 weeks, and then I go see the counselor, and she's like, David, you've got to tell me what you've been doing. I'm like, what are you talking about? And she says, 2 weeks ago. I'm like, David, and you're just staring at the wall with nothing going on. And here you are 2 weeks later going, I can't wait to ride my bike again, and having complete conversations with her. Before that, I couldn't follow a conversation. Like you say 2 words, okay, those 2 words. You say the next 2 words, I forgot the first 2 words already. You say the next 2 words, you say 6 words, I have no idea what you're saying to me. And then you finish and you go, what do you think? I'm like, what? Like, I don't know what you said to me. I just forgot everything. That's, some serious brain injury. Sensitivity to light, sensitivity to sound. I'd hear like a fan, and I'd be in the doctor's office, and there'd be a fan in the ceiling 2 rooms down, and I'd hear this, and I'd just be bawling my eyes out. That's when he finally took me serious, because before that, for like the first 3 months, after like crash was in June of 2017. That was the second crash. So June of 2017, and by October, I was like, there's something wrong. And everyone's like, oh, you didn't bump your head, don't worry about it. And by November, he was just like, maybe it's your vision. Let's go get your vision checked. Let's go get your hearing tested. I would fall over. And so it wasn't until I started bawling my eyes out in front of him. And he's like, what is it? And I'm like, it's that fan. And it's just like way off in the distance. Like, okay, there's something wrong. So that's when finally he took me serious. And I got sent to a neurologist who went, oh my God, you're a mess. So anyway, so it was in the second crash, June of 2017. It was end of February of 2018 that I started microdosing. And I was doing a larger microdose, like a 1/4 gram, which is the high end of a microdose. You have like 0.1 to 0.25 is your average microdose size. And I was doing it Mondays and Fridays, and snapped me right out of it. And within a couple of weeks, I went from that whole zombie confusion to, Jesus Christ, this has really messed me up. And that driver and that first driver, those guys were on their phone, and here I am suffering for it. I was first crash, I was T-boned by a truck, guy on his phone texting. Second crash, sitting at a red light, boom, bottom of a hill, guy on his phone texting. And yeah, and I was a mess. Anyways, I start microdosing, and I started doing well. And I had, vertigo, and I mentioned the other issues, but there was a lot. I mean, you couldn't touch my skin. I would freak out if someone touched me. I'd have to make a list. And the thing is, it is so far behind me now. Like, I don't identify as someone who ever had a brain injury. It comes up in conversations, like, because everyone I'm talking to these days, they're all like, hey, I'm sort of microdosing. What do you think? I'm like, well, let me tell you something. I'm not a guy with brain injury, and it is so far behind me because of the use of psychedelics as a medicine. Today is March 19, 2022. I had a third crash I haven't talked about yet. That was not even 4 years ago. So a year after my second crash, I'm on the freeway, and I'm starting to get well. I've still got vertigo, and I still didn't know how to write software. I was trying to relearn. And then I'm on the freeway, traffic comes to a sudden stop, boom. The private investigator for the insurance company following me smokes me from behind. He gets out of his car and he's like, oh, I shouldn't have been driving. I just found out I was on the phone, and I just found out my best friend got killed. Guy wasn't paying attention to the road, hit me at a really high speed on the freeway. By the time I drove myself to the hospital, by the time I got there, I didn't know my name. I stopped talking. I had to sit there, write on paper, like, here's my name. I have a brain injury, and I just had another crash. I couldn't speak. I stopped. I didn't speak for like 2 weeks. And then when I started speaking again, I had like a 30-second stutter for a couple of months. It would take me like 30 seconds to say toast. It would be like, apparently that's anxiety. My anxiety after the third crash was so bad, I couldn't go outside. If I went outside, it was too open and unprotected. And I would like, I'm surprised I didn't wet my pants. I would just be like crying, and I'd get in my car and I'd be okay. But there was days like, or a taxi or something, I had to look at the floor because if I saw the trees going by, I'd vomit. I just had too much, I think it's called visual disturbance. Oh, it was a hard time. And by a couple of months after the third crash, I wasn't able to feed myself. I mean, I could put food in my mouth, but I couldn't make a decision. And the neural capacity, which is your battery level of your brain, the neural capacity mine was like 0. So if you said, what do you want to eat? The idea that I need to make a decision on what to eat, that just cooked me. And I go to bed. I was sleeping 18 hours a day at that point. But you just wiped me out by asking me a question, and I won't eat today. I'm going to go to sleep and I'll try again to eat tomorrow. So I wasn't able to eat anything. And at that point, after the second crash, I left my wife. And I was living off the kindness of strangers, like people that hadn't seen me since junior high, finding out on Facebook, like, Jesus, you're homeless. I got a room for a month. So I'd say a month here, a month here, a month here. And I was rewiring my brain and unable to work, look after, I just sleep. So eventually I was given a food schedule, and it was like, Monday, you have toast with peanut butter. That's your one meal a day, go back to bed. Tuesday, have instant oatmeal. That's your one meal a day, go back to bed. And I would just sleep the rest of the day. And then Wednesday, you boil 2 eggs. If there's more than one pot on the stove, always pick the one on the right. Because if there was a pot on the stove, I would just start bawling my eyes out and go back to bed. I couldn't make that decision. And I was like that for about almost 2 months before it started coming out of it. And it actually was interesting because after the third crash, I stopped microdosing. And I went, suicidal. And I had a plan, I was ready. And then I started microdosing again. And at some point I hit rock bottom and started microdosing, and I just let go of any idea that someone was going to help me. And I came to this realization, like, my family all turned their back on me. And I'll admit this, to this very day, I don't talk to any of them, but I'm better for it. It's like, if that person can't support you at your lowest point, I don't need them. And the people I surround myself with today are beautiful people that are there for me. And now I can be there for them in any way I can. And just, those are true friends. Those are true love. The relationships I have with those that are in my life. So clearly this is completely unscripted. So I'm just going off the top of my head here. I apologize. I started microdosing in January of 2019, and I realized the only person that can get me through this is myself. And that gave me the understanding that I need to find my own strength. And rather than going, oh, somebody help me, it's like, I need to do this for myself. And that's where this new strength comes online. And in November of 2018, after my third crash, I had to go see a special neurologist, and he told me flat out, like, you'll never work in software again. This is a career ender. You're far too brain injured. And he's like, I'm not going to paint a pretty picture for you. You're going to need 2 years of recovery, and you'll need to talk to an occupational counselor. And you're probably looking at like janitorial or something very simple. I'm sitting there bawling my eyes out and stuff. And so like 6 weeks later, I started microdosing, January of 2019. I microdosed through the end of May of 2019. And in June of that year, 2019, I suddenly wanted to start writing software again, which was funny because I was so brain injured, so depressed that I was like, why do I need to work? Like, why can't I just live in a van and just eat stuff that grows? Like, why do I need to play this game of, being in the economy like we've all been taught? In the beginning of June, I went back to my daughter. I microdosed for a complete 5 months. And I said, I'd like to start writing software again. I swear he dropped his pencil. What? And he gave me the okay to, I did an hour every second day. That's all I could. I'd work for an hour. Like I couldn't figure out how to write software. I was trying, and I had to sleep the rest of the day, and I take the next day off, do another hour 2 days later. That was June of 2019. And by September, I was working full time. I was struggling, still trying to still trying to rewire my brain. But and it took some time. But I haven't microdosed in almost 3 years. It's almost 3 years to the end of May, and this is the end of March now, so we're a little bit shy of that, but I haven't microdosed ever since. And I am so recovered from the microdosing that I did a few years ago. I no longer have to identify myself as a guy with a brain injury. It's like, oh, I used to have this problem where you couldn't touch my head, and I couldn't sleep at night for like 2 years on end. Just, nah, my life is great. And because of the healing, I'll use that term, that I went through with the brain injury, the healing as in spiritual and emotional, and finding my strength, absolute gratitude. Like, my life is amazing for what I've gone through, and it's just given me an absolute different perspective on life and the world. And I would not wish it on my worst enemy what I went through. If I had the money, I was so broke I couldn't afford to buy a gun to put in my mouth. And I stood outside a gun store one night, November 2018, too fucking broke to take my head off. But that's where I was at. But no, it's so far behind me now. And I try to go onto like TBI groups, and I see guys saying the same thing. Like, I can't handle this anymore. I just want to kill myself. And I was like, microdose, find psilocybin. If you can't get psilocybin, get, hopefully it's legal in your area. If it is, get some LSD. Canada has legalized the use of psychedelics as a medicine, which means if you were brain injured, or you have a concussion, or you had a stroke, which is an acquired brain injury, which is the loss of neurotransmitters because of like the blood vessels bursting, microdose, you will recover so fast. You will, I'm going to put another video together to talk about what's going to happen, because it's not fun. But instead of waiting 10 years to recover, but still have the scarring of the stuff, guys are still talking about in these brain injury groups where like they bumped their head 10 years ago and they're still struggling. I'm like, look at me, look at this smile on my face, the absolute joy. It's life-changing. I haven't touched it in 3 years. I don't need to, and I'm back to being at the top of my game, writing software again and designing enterprise systems for large companies. And yeah, Flute is so far behind me. Absolutely saved my life. So anyone out there, all right, choke up. If you're going through brain injury right now, do your research. Or if you can't, find someone that can do it for you. Talk to me, contact me. I can't get you medicine. I'm sorry. No, you're gonna have to find it yourself. I don't know what country you're in, what state or province you're in. You'll need to do your own research. I can't, here, take these. No, all I can do is give you information. This really works. And this is because another neurologist, or probably another specialist in brain growth and brain health said, brain injury, microdose mushrooms, you'll grow neural pathways back. And the guy was absolutely right. Best 2-minute discussion I ever had in my life. So there's hope. You'll get through this. You can wait 10 years and struggle, or you just have it just within 2 weeks. If you're really, really brain injured, 2 weeks, you're going to start noticing. Other people are going to start noticing. And if you're just doing it for wellness, by all means, 3 weeks, because it's going to be a little more subtle. It's the severe injury guys that are be like, ooh, I can see a difference. And they're going to, yeah. So please, don't give up. Look at me. I could, in spring of 2019, February of 2019, just 3 years ago today-ish, my rehab was learning to sweep a floor. I would sweep the kitchen like 3 feet by 8 feet. I couldn't do this because it would make me vomit to see that motion. I had to hold the broom vertically and just walk back and forth like a Zamboni on the ice. And it'd take me like 10 minutes to sweep a 3 foot by 8 foot area, and I have to sleep for an hour because that was too much for me. Sleep for an hour, and then I had my rehab exercises in to mop the floor the same way. Take the mop, wet it, hold it, and go back and forth. Take 10 minutes to just do a 3 foot by 8 foot area because that was way too much effort for me brain-wise. Sleep for an hour. And so here I am 3 years later going, I got this. So please, you see me in this video. My life is fucking amazing now. Microdose. It will change your life. And I'm going to put some more videos together talking about it and symptoms and all this kind of stuff. I had everything. You pick a symptom. I had it. It was bad. Anyways, there's hope. So there you go.